Hey everybody, it's Rob here. We just got the patch notes for the mid-season patch yesterday, and there are a lot of changes coming, and there is one patch note here about the Holy Bolt Elixir we want to talk about in more detail today here, and also about the impact it's going to have on the tier list and on the top builds for almost every class, because the Holy Bolt Elixir has been a true powerhouse for not only the Necromancer but also for the Bleed Barb and a bunch of other builds here that we're going to be talking about now. So first of all, what they are changing exactly is a bit misleading here, I think, and for a lot of players was a bit confusing. So obviously we haven't tested this. This is going to go live on Monday, so in 2 days here, on the 17th. Today is the 15th, and what they are basically doing here, they fixed an issue where Holy Bolt's damage was scaling unintentionally high when it was triggered from pets such as the Necromancer minions. So you all need to take this with a grain of salt, because we will need to test it on Monday. But what I believe this means, and as you guys seen in the past here, there are these Necromancers that basically deal no damage to the boss here. This is like 144, this is one of the top Necro clears. Like you see, the boss HP is not moving at all. Like, right, this is like the golem, you know, pecking away at this monster here. This is like the Scourge of Lands, and it's never dealing any damage to it until suddenly one of the minions explodes and it just does like a 200 billion damage to this boss, or like a couple trillion damage probably even. It's gonna be damage in the multiple trillions here, and else the Necro has no DPS. And this is gonna impact not only Necro, it's gonna impact the Barb. I have a new planner here for the Barb and all these kind of things. And I think it's a bit misleading here because it states the Necromancer, but this is just an example, the way I understand it, because they clarify here with a developer's note. So Holy Bolt Elixir now deals a percentage of your weapon damage rather than a percentage of enemy health. And this is going to impact almost every build that was using Holy Bolt Elixir, not only the minion Necromancers. The minion Necromancers was one of the, let's call it, worst offenders of this double dipping interaction. And this change is intended to reduce its effectiveness against toughest enemies in higher tiers of pits, but will still be relatively valuable for players throughout the whole game. So on the high end, it's getting a massive change here, and downwards. And they also made the change alongside with a reduction to health of the enemies. This has been a big W. Obviously, we don't know exactly how much they have reduced the health of the enemies in the pit. I, for one, am a huge enthusiasm of them changing the life, in particular of those bosses, because they are these like crazy damage sponges, especially in the high tiers with tens of trillions of life, and there's definitely not many ways you can even beat them. So this is a very welcome change to see some of the health reduced, and I hope this is mainly affecting the boss, because the Rift is still fine, but the boss is the huge problem on the high pits. But yeah, they're basically saying that the pits aren't so heavily affected. I still think it's going to have a big impact, especially on the tier list. So if you're looking at the Bleed Barb, for example, and many of you don't notice, but the Bleed Barb in the higher tiers here is also completely revolving around the Holy Bolt Elixir. You can see here, he's doing, this is the Bash variant, the Bleed Bash variant. He's doing billions of damage, but only with Holy Bolt Elixir whenever he kills the minions of the boss. You can see this guy here is bleeding for 3.7 billion damage every second. And basically he would not do any damage like normally, but he would do almost all its damage only from the Holy Bolt Elixir. So the Bash Barb is heavily affected. Also the Flay Barb recently from Kingpig here was playing with bleeds only, and the Flay directly did not deal any damage. You can see here the boss HP is not moving at all until the Holy Bolt Elixir procs. And this is currently the highest solo clear here, 148 in 13 minutes. But again, only Flay Rupture with Holy Bolt. And you guys can see here, this is a 148 boss, and this is like insane DPS that he's doing. And this is also going to change. So these variants here, like the Bleed Chinese Push and the Bleed Hoda, with Holy Bolt, they're probably going to get changed. I already made a new planner that I'm going to be linking in the description here. This is about the Tyrell's Might getting a buff, and this might be, you know, one of the best Bleed Holy Bolt Bleed builds but without the Holy Bolt Elixir now. And we'll definitely be checking this on Monday. But as far as the tier list goes, guys, this affects many, many builds, and I haven't fully updated this. Probably in the evening today, I'm going to publish the entire tier list once I've been, like, you know, fixing this a bit more. So we had the Fire Sorc here. This one is actually getting a buff. It's uncontested on the highest tier now. Fire Sorc alone probably, because it's the best build. It didn't need Holy Bolt Elixir. It can probably do 150 solo. The biggest impact here we're going to be feeling on the Shadow Necro. So the 144 is the highest that it has been cleared. And this has basically been with the Holy Bolt double dip. And I'm expecting a 15 to 20 tier reduction in clears for the Shadow Necro, for the Minion Necro. There is a 125 clear here. Just completely without Holy Bolts. This is the highest clear I could find. So roughly 20 tiers lower or nerf for the Minion Necro. At least on the high end. We will see how this is going to turn out, if this is going to be true. And I don't know if this is exactly the highest tier. But you guys can let me know in the comments if you've seen any Necro clear higher than 125. Because that would put it like all the way back into B tier from S tier. Again, the tier list will be updated tomorrow. We also have the bleed buff here. Again, we're gonna go from 144 probably down to like some direct damage version. At least do like lose like 5 to 10 tiers because we can't double dip on the rupture. I think Flay is looking a bit better now than the bleed bash buff because Flay has higher single target. There's 148 with Holy Bolt, but there's also 143 here that we've covered earlier from Pix. That basically did it completely without Holy Bolts and still hitting the boss for 2.5 billion damage here twice a second. So this is like a 5 billion dot you can see. And I believe he's going to be rupturing this guy for, let's see it. So 77 billion damage on the direct rupture. This is not revolving around Holy Bolt Elixir. You can see this is a single target boss. And he does 78 billion damage. And this is probably one of the big winners of the patch because Flay not only is not affected by the Holy Bolt too much, but Flay also got a massive buff here. Another 8% X and here another 5% X basically in terms of DPS output. So it looks like Flay is the big winner here, only losing about 3 tiers because of the Holy Bolt nerf. But then also getting, you know, some tiers back. And I believe this was calculated out to be about a 13% damage buff here, if you calculate it, if you math it out. So 13% buff to Flay, Holy Bolt Elixir gone, but still only about 3 tiers weaker, while Bash Buff loses about 5 to 10 tiers. It's very hard to say. We will test this on Monday. But you also get the Tyrell's buff on Flay. Again, I got this new planner here, best after new patch. We're going to be testing this. This is going to be in the description. And we'll see. Thorn's buff doesn't really look to be losing that much. And most of the other builds here weren't really using the Holy Bolt Elixir all too much. So I think the biggest loser of this Holy Bolt bug fix with the double dipping is, like they stated, the Necromancer. But it certainly is going to affect, you know, all the bleed Barbarians as well. And we will see how it's going to turn out. I personally, guys, I think the Holy Bolt change is a good thing for the game. It might not feel good in the moment, but I know many of you didn't like the Holy Bolt from the beginning, and I am a big fan of your build and your build mechanics and, you know, how you play your build to deal the most damage. I didn't like it in Diablo 3 already, where you have a, I don't know, a seasonal theme or something that basically revolves around the environment, doing the damage rather than your own individual character. The Holy Bolt Elixir was carrying some of the bleed builds and also the Necromancer way beyond what would be possible without this double dipping and without this environmental effect. And I think it's a healthy and good change for the game to tune down these double dipping mechanics and builds for the long-term health of the game. And I much rather have the power of a build come from, you know, the individual skill or the individual character and build itself, rather than from something, you know, that is as environmental here as one of these Holy Bolt elixirs. I think with the change that they're doing, that the Holy Bolt Elixir is still going to be at least a decent option for speed farming, for open world content. It's still going to be amazing in the Helltide and stuff, because it's still going to be strong, even if it's not double dipping. But yeah, the Bleed Barb that I've been enjoying going to get a big haircut. The Necro is going to get probably the biggest haircut here with the Holy Bolt Elixir. The Sorc is staying untouched. And I think with that, they changed most of the double dipping. The only double dipping right now that is still in the game, there was a good meme here on the rogue, like the victimized hard rogue is unchanged. There's still double dipping going on that class, but on most of the other stuff it has seemingly been changed, and I think it's a good change. And they've also changed snapshotting mid-season last season, and I already made a lot of predictions that this might happen, and I think it's a good thing. It might not feel good in the moment, but long term this is the way to go. Fix the double dipping, fix the environmental themes doing like broken trillion damage, and I think it's gonna like reshape the tier list a bit. Like this Necro is definitely losing some of the tiers, but there is some other buffs coming to the Necro in the Book of the Dead, and a lot of other changes here that's bumping up some other cool builds for the Necro. And Minion is still gonna feel amazingly strong even without the Holy Bolt Elixir. It's gonna clear pretty high, and yeah, we'll see what happens to the Sorc, because that build is gonna fly in the 150s, and I'm not sure who's stopping it. But yeah, we'll see what the pit changes are, and I have more information on Monday and later when we can finally test the patch, and also later on when I'm going to update the full tier list. But yeah, guys, Holy Bolt Elixir is going to get tuned down. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you soon, my friends. Take care. GG. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.